Heather, yes, welcome and thank you for joining this podcast and for sharing the work that you do and telling our audience about who you are and the work of Makower Architects, of where you are a trustee director. Is that right?
Yeah, thanks very much, Nick. That's right. Very pleased to be here today.
Thank you. Um, it's a free flowing format. If you want to talk to our audience about the practice, the work that you do, the projects you're involved in, the staff levels and numbers of staff, and the work you're involved with, whether it's residential, commercial, and a bit about the practice history, basically. And it's a free reign for you to tell us all about who you are, basically.
Great, thanks. Yeah, so I've been with Makower Architects around about 2 years. It's founded
Okay.
10 years ago by Tim Makower. He was previously partner at Eliza Morrison, who founded the master planning team there.
Okay.
So it's a very international but very London-based practice as well. Has I mean fantastic roots in master planning, and you can really feel that across the project. So
Yeah.
no project is looked at as sort of architecture alone. It's very much the whole life cycle, from the brief writing and the sort of ideation all the way through to kind of delivery. So
Okay.
practice is about 30 people,
Yeah.
and really like punches above its weight in terms of sort of delivery. So we've got a really very capable sort of delivery team, and we really do see projects the whole way through. So that's really good. I mean, I think
Yeah.
you were in touch with me for Watford, so that's probably a very good example of the type of work, which is inner and outer London sort of town centre sort of regeneration, and
Yeah.
looking at the project, from much more holistic perspective of kind of really getting ingrained in the communities. So Watford being a project which is high density residential with
Yeah.
with a market use and a long history, and that's been a kind of long but brilliant process, working very closely with the council and very closely with the sort of market traders. But
Well,
it's an
that's
example of
that's the
regeneration.
project. Yeah,
Sorry.
that's the project most definitely. As you've alluded to there, I spotted it because and we got a conversation going through the power of LinkedIn and the fact it gained so much traction across social media. It shows, as you mentioned there, how how much it is being noticed by people, isn't it? Which is brilliant.
Yeah, and I think I think that these sorts of projects. I mean, there's another project worth talking about is sort of Basildon, which is another sort of huge regeneration project, which is that sort of approach of looking beyond the project, beyond the sort of life of the town, much more, and hopefully much more longer,
Yeah.
long life, loose fit kind of way. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, it was absolutely huge amount of stakeholders. Very kind of comprehensive process, and I think it was just fantastic, like getting into detail on the sort of history of the market itself and the town, and really bringing those stakeholders together and coming to a sort of unified position, because it was very very challenging but very good.
Yeah, I know. I can imagine. And so you mentioned 2 years, pretty much your 2 year anniversary, isn't it? I think with Makower Architects. What's your history then, as coming up through the ranks as an architect? What's been your background?
So I was at John McCaslin and Partners for 10 years.
Yeah.
So working on pretty much all the sectors, but primarily kind of co-leading the residential team.
Okay.
So worked in Australia, worked in Glasgow, worked in the Borough Collection. I guess in terms of Watford, I did work on and led Camden Market. So that was again, these market projects are always long, which is important to get everybody's voice. But that was, a similar sort of 2 year process, evolving brief, and did a lot, or headed up a lot of the pro bono work
Yeah.
at John McCaslin Partners. Off the back of that, founded a think tank called Architects Aware, so I've always been very sort of focused on social issues, and that's looking at how the built environment can interface with homelessness,
Okay.
and provide solutions. So trying to not step outside our brief, because I think should be part of the way we're working, but really get involved much more closely with sort of policy and brief writing.
Yeah.
And that was collaborating with members from the GLA and from charities and developers, and like really trying to be much more sort of wide and more widely collaborative. So yeah, and I think that's part of my sort of natural transition to Makower, which is a very sort of people focused practice, you know, and really getting under the skin of like really minute details of every day in every project that we do.
But your project that you were just talking of then, that you founded, Architects Aware, that's still a going concern now? That's still live now?
Yeah, I mean, I think I guess other than everyone in you know, the kind of pandemic scheme, that homelessness has been around forever.
Yes.
So it's, you know, I guess a big part of that think tank is really us sort of challenging, you know, in any policy, it's always housing first, which is right, but it doesn't take away the fact that there's other needs, and it's an ongoing challenge in all regards. But everybody deserves a sort of voice and a place and a platform, and ultimately somewhere to sleep.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, all credit to you. Absolutely, it's this is really, that's a really good thing that you're an ambassador of there. Something that you started. I'm ex-military. I don't know if you know that at all, from 30 odd years ago. Long time ago now. And yeah, there's lots of homeless ex-military, isn't there? Which is just dreadful when you think about the things that they've done for the country. There should be no place for it at all. So, and if you can help to raise that profile in any way, shape, or form, then all credit to you.
Yeah, and I think the other thing. So at Makower, we do lots of, again, sort of research work around and kind of pilot projects around mental health. Yeah. So in particular, looking at sort of psychosis and schizophrenia. Again, looking at sort of demographics of people where there isn't, there's gaps. You know, there is no policy-based provision.
Yeah.
So you know, if you suffer from psychosis or any other kind of severe mental health issue, what is your option beyond, say, being sectioned or being in very substandard accommodation? But so we've got a few pilot projects sort of in and around London and across the country, looking at working with people, finding land and trying to realise what we call homestead, which is therapeutic environments for those suffering from severe mental health issues.
That's absolutely all credit to you. And so when you say, obviously, your main reach, the office is based in London, does your work feature elsewhere around the country, or is it mainly London-based projects?
It's probably like mostly 90% sort of London, but we are, particularly for this homestead project, looking around Wales and Devon and West Sussex, like just lots of places. We have Ireland. We've got lots of pilots. I mean, with any of these projects, you have to try and release 20 in the hope of realizing kind of one. So it's ongoing, but we've got, you know, it's been an amazing process, kind of collaborating with very inspirational leaders in fields of kind of therapy, psychotherapy, holistic therapies, all of these things. And we did a couple of events for London Festival of Architecture, where we really brought together, and we sort of challenged the way we're talking to people and the way we're sort of doing our engagement. And we had these huge listening circles that we ended up till kind of very late into the evening, with very big debates about how we even begin to address or discuss kind of addressing something like mental health and designing for the space like that. You know, all of the obvious things like tensions between kind of safety and, you know, just quality of space. Everybody deserves somewhere. You know, a healing environment isn't necessarily one that might on paper be the safest. So how it's all of those tensions, like these spaces are not designed to intentionally be harmful, but a lot of them are. So the conversation is just as important as ultimately what we hope to achieve with the project.
Absolutely. And well, I hope, if nothing else, this talk now, this podcast, and by us sharing it, will hope raise awareness. You, like as you mentioned, you're hoping to go across the country with it. You know, Wales, Ireland, everywhere. I'd be more than happy. I know you're sending your work across for us to promote. If there's anything around this you want to get in Architecture Vogue magazine as well, then let's shout it from the rooftops and let everybody know, because it's a huge thing that you're doing, and I'd be right behind it.
That's great. Yeah, no, we'd definitely love to take you up on that.
Yeah, anything at all that you've got, let's share it, and it's all about, you know, raising the profile, isn't it? And that's exactly what Architecture Vogue does, and that's not just your work, but any articles, anything at all that you want to share, let's do that and help raise this profile, because it's something that quite rightly should be shouted about.
Great, thank you.
So going back to the practice, and you say you're about 30 strong. Is that's do you tend to bring people up through the ranks? Do you encourage the kind of junior members of staff to come up through? Is that part of your?
I think it feels like a very well, I think we are a very sort of feels like a family. Like it's very much a sort of welcoming environment. I mean, we're wonderfully placed like just by the Tate, so we have kind of Tate memberships and do like lunches and things there. But it's we all kind of sit in the sun, have our lunch together. And in terms of like the sort of structure of the office, it's everybody's voice is important and genuinely so. And the teams, everybody knows everybody. 30 is a really nice size.
Yeah.
So, and everybody's involved and we're just in the middle of sculpting our kind of framework for how we push projects to achieve potential beyond obviously the everyday. So we're starting to look at sort of widening those categories and having a really interesting debate in the office. We're an EOT, so we tend to every month sort of pick a topic and bring it to the room. So I think we're doing ethics next month, which will be interesting.
Yeah.
But it's very much it's very sort of bottom up in terms of the teaching and the learning. So everybody, it definitely feels like a family.
That's really good. I've been doing this for 30 years now, basically, and I'm speaking to lots of different practice directors over the years from all around the country in different walks of life, and that's a really good approach. It's a refreshing approach and something that not everybody does. So yes, Heather, I really thank you for your time today and for talking to our audience about your history, the practice, and who you are as a business. And thank you very much for your time indeed.
Thanks, Nick. Lovely to meet you formally in person, and have a lovely day.
Thank you for listening to an interview with an architect. Please remember to subscribe and follow for more.